Hi, Chris Conway here, and I'm here to talk about the new and the 10th Audible Light album, Distance. And I wanted to talk about the group Audible Light anyway, as it's a group which kind of goes under the radar, as it sort of doesn't quite fit in so many of the standard genres. But Audible Light is a quartet of myself, theremin, keyboards, flutes, voice, lots of effects, some voice, various things like that. We have Andy Attio on guitar and cello and synthesizer, and Jim Tetlow is a synthesist, a wonderful sculptor in sound, and Les Hayden is on bass and sometimes tenorion, the Japanese little box of lights sometimes. He plays. And we've just released our 10th album in 7 years. 7 years we got together. And it's difficult because we're not quite, we do have electronics, but we're not quite an electronic band. My piano playing is probably from a ECM type jazz background, but it's certainly not jazz music. It's improvised, but it's not extremely discordant. Sometimes we drift into atonal music, but it's difficult to sum up what it is, so it's difficult to promote it as well, so having to explain it. We started because we were all regular members of the monthly Chord Electronic improvised music sessions that happened monthly, that I used to organize. And Jim Tetlow and I were in and still are in a duo called Memory Wire. We've done quite a few albums as well. But whilst we were at Quad Electronic, we saw Andy's guitar playing and Les, and we noticed how much they listen when playing and responding, and we enjoyed playing with them when we were drawn together in various groupings there. So I went up to him and I thought if we wanted to expand Memory Wire to 4 of us, it would be great with those 2. And Jim said, I'd just been thinking the same. So what we did was we arranged a meeting here in the studio, which is a bit of a tight fit, but we did it. And it was just a wonderful experience. Just so much space in the music, and we recorded it, and it became Radiance, our first album. If you can see it easily against the light. And it just, a lot of just magical things happened, really. We kept virtually everything. And it was hard to describe, but we decided to set up some concerts. So I started up what was called Ambient Underground as a regular thing. About every quarter or every third year, we'd meet at the Cookie in Leicester, and we grew to having guests. But the first one we had, soon after that album, we thought we must play it live. So the Ambient Underground won. But we thought we'd better have a rehearsal. So we met here again, and again, it was great. And we recorded it, and it came out as Luminescence. And this started off the kick of having our album titles end in Ents or Ants. I don't know why, it was a bit of fun to think of each one. And so we played live at Ambient Underground, and that was, again, a fantastic session. We had one piece which is 44 minutes long, and we had a special guest at that first Ambient Underground, and Linda Faulkner joined us on vocals on the second track. But there's this long track called Ocean, which has got a lot of watery sounds and electric piano and shimmering kind of thing. And we were so pleased with it, we had recorded that and released that one, Submergence. And then came another album with our friend Dave Powell, also from the Chord Electronic Sessions, who is electric hurdy-gurdyist, and he plays, we eventually he and I joined together as a duo called Ether Wheel, and we released Convergence, which has been quite a popular one. It's got, again, slightly riffing sections on there that is different from the past. Then time went on, and we did virtually all the albums then were all done live at Quad Electronic, because Jim had was able to record multi-channel, so we could mix afterwards and mix and edit. So we did this album with Chris Thornhill, electric guitar, violin, and effects as a special guest, and its Essence. And that just is a dream of an album. I remember it was on cold January night, and not many people were there, and it just came out. We were so happy with that. There are lots of minimal music sections in that. That's another thing we do, which is another thing in the mix. We like getting into repeated patterns, Terry Riley and Steve Wright type patterns, and throwing those into the mix and doing those as well. And that's got quite a bit of it on that album. After that, we just carried on, and Prescience was the next one. I can't remember if this was an anniversary or not of the group. We sometimes met, and it's got a bit more of a mysterious feeling to that one. I think that's the one where we decided for a change we would each bring field recordings and add them into our live sound. And I think I recorded the neighbour's lawnmower, but it actually came out sounding quite cool. And so that's a little different, because you get those sounds that we've each brought in. Actually, I don't think Les did, but they're in there. And then came Sentience. Terry didn't cover that. And then we had a special one with guest Lions and Telemachus 2131 guested with us, and on their violin, vocal and effects, and laptop synthesizer. And Lions, or Leonie de Brigueur, has wonderful vocal and violin sounds on there, and it was just to have, again, a female voice in amongst the floaty music really added an extra thing to it, and so we call that Utterance because of the voice on it. Then we had our 5th anniversary concert. I guess that would have been 2019, I'm thinking, maybe 2020, can't remember quite the time. And so we recorded again at Ambient Underground and made Quintessence. And these are just 2 tracks, Pentacle and Pentagram for the 5, and Quintessence, of course, for the 5. And then came lockdown, and we haven't been doing anything, obviously, and we thought a lot of our magic comes together when we play live, but as it doesn't seem that safe to go into an enclosed space for a great length of time, we decided, as several bands have done, to do recording by passing down the wire, along the wire to each other, files. And we had the idea that each of us would start a track and send it to the next one in line alphabetically. So there were these 4 tracks going down to the next one to record their sound to it, and then the next one to record their sound to it. So we ended up with 4 tracks, and it was very interesting because it's a different way to work, and it was a change. We actually had always wanted to go back to the studio, like on our first 2 albums, but for some reason it was so easy to record live, we didn't do that. So this is the nearest thing we got to. We got back in the studio, but we were each in a different studio. And it's slightly different in a way, because we could each hear what the other one had done first, so one could plan a little bit what one was going to add. So, and it is different. This is distance. Distance, of course, because we couldn't be together. And we did it at a distance. And there are 4 tracks. Andy Attio started the first one, which is quite synthesizer based, although it does have some cello on it, but the synthesizer sets the tone. And then the next track, Reawakening, is the one I began, which is a game of 2 halves with sort of strange sounds and noises and and the first half is very abstract, and then it goes into a minimal section of repeated pattern, minimal things, which we like to do. Then came Redux, which Les Hayden started, and that's got a real feeling of liveness, actually. He'd add his EBO bass gadget to play sustained notes on it, and his Tenorion, but it does feel like more of an organic commingling track. And the final track is Rapture, which Jim started, and is got these very atmospheric, dark kind of synthesizer chords which set the tone, and towards the end there's a slight kind of rhythm builds, and I think there's a bit of theremin on that, and it again adds a bit of the creepiness to it. But either way, it feels very powerful at the end. So yeah, 10 albums, and I hope you will look into checking out at least Audible Light, which is on Bandcamp, audiblelight.bandcamp.com, and we're on Spotify as well as Audible Light. All the albums are there, and to hear it, and it's very hard to describe. As you can see, I'm not making a good job of it, but it's on in the background here. This is one track. Let's try another one. I was going to be all clever and change the tracks as I talked about them, but it's only on in the background. But it is one of my most favorite groups that I've ever played in, and I played in a lot in my 32 years in the business, because everyone listens, and it's improvised, but there's space. I grew up in my younger days playing a lot of free jazz and free improv music, and I just don't want to do all those hundreds of notes a minute anymore. And just the communicating, setting up atmospheres, responding, listening, and it's what these three musicians I really enjoy playing with, and it really sets its own atmosphere. And as a musician, it just feels a real treat to get together when we do get together. So anyway, I've rambled on enough, but I thought it deserved a bit of shot in the arm of promotion, especially when a 10th album comes out, and still I'm trying to spread the word about Audible Light. Thanks for listening, and hope you check us out. Bye.